And, that's just how I feel. Like, sorry. Sorry it gets you so upset. He's relaxed. I thought he had a great win on the weekend, and it seems like every time someone asks him a question or they put the spotlight on him for 2 seconds, he can't help himself but mention my name. And, it's a little concerning, to be honest.
Why is it concerning?
Because I'm the only thing in his head. and surely he could be using his spotlight for other purposes, like for instance, like he's calling me like a fake New Zealander, a fake Australian. Like, wow, like they're pretty heavy comments, and when like he could be using his spotlight to further other purposes, and I guess the only thing that Israel can talk about is me. I'm flattered, to be honest.
All right, so obviously I messed that one up. That's Whitaker speaking to Ariel Helwani and him reacting to Israel's comments. On Israel taking offense to his comments, other interviews that he's done. Whitaker's pretty laid back, and he hasn't struck me as anybody who delivers venom when speaking about others. At least not yet. He's actually a pretty model citizen. As a world champion, I don't think you could ask for more if you're a promotion. Unless you want a little bit more of the pro wrestling type promos, you're never going to get them from Robert Whitaker. Like I said, he's just a chill dude. But this one's a little confusing, and I'll tell you why. Because I honestly also caught that where Israel Adesanya was saying something about Whitaker, being a Kiwi, born in New Zealand but living in Australia. But almost coming at him for being in that situation. And Israel was born in Nigeria and lives in New Zealand. So he flies both flags. I think he's proud of living in New Zealand. That's where his success has come as an athlete. You saw him bow down to his coach, which, by the way, was a very touching moment after he won the world title there in the octagon at UFC 236. The city kickboxing gym in New Zealand gets talked about a lot, how it's up and coming. He wants to have the fight in Auckland, but at the same time, he's very proud of his roots from Nigeria. You've seen the pictures there with Kamaru Usman and him, fellow Nigerian. They want to take the belts back to Nigeria. They had that classic line of gold that was stolen, and now they're going back with gold. So, it's just somebody who managed to find, another place, another part of the world to live, and they've been happy, and I think Robert Whitaker's kind of in the same boat, and I think that's kind of why he's kind of getting the chuckle, out of all this. So, is Israel maybe reaching a little bit to start to build this fight up? Perhaps, but I don't think he's going to get anywhere with it.
Yeah, I don't think when it comes to those two guys, I don't even really think there needs to be anything to build that fight up. I think it stands on its own. It's one of those fights where you're going to tune in no matter what. And, of course, I know you like a little bit of the drama. I like it, too. But from those two guys towards each other, to me, it doesn't seem genuine. I don't know why.
Well, I do like the drama, and I do like finding something where you can, poke a little fun and get things going a little. But you also got to read your opponent. And if you know that you're sitting across the table from Robert Whitaker, there's not much you're going to say. It's almost like he's a really good poker player because he just doesn't show much emotion. So there's nothing you're really going to do that's going to draw something out of him. And if that's the case, you just back off. Did you see recently Chael Sonnen, when his opponent was announced as Lyoto Machida, he said, hey, look, I'm just kind of dropping the bit for this one. There's a lot of respect here. We both have accomplished a lot. Hell, Lyoto's actually accomplished more. He's actually become a world champion. And I think he just knows Lyoto's not going to really return fire. It's not going to go anywhere. The missiles are just going to not really go anywhere. And so, look, it's early on. I think maybe this thing heats up, maybe it doesn't. Who knows? I mean, Khabib's pretty chill, and you saw Conor was able to finally find that last nerve because you saw the way he overreacted after UFC 226. But let's do a couple more here. This is cut number 2. If any of the trash talk went too far.
Anything that crosses the line, it all matters. It all depends how you could take it. So some things I think are ridiculous. Like when he says that I'm a fake Aussie, fake New Zealander, like that's just ridiculous. And I don't think anyone really pays any mind to it. Because if I'm a fake New Zealander, then what is he? Like it's just one of those things. And as for every time I see him, you know, I'm very personable. I have no beef with him at all. Like if he wants me to be critical every time I see him, and to sit him down and we can have coffee and we can go over every fault that I see in his game, I'll do that if he wants to.
Oh.
Otherwise, I'll just say, "Hey, how you doing?" and keep my mouth shut. And any differences we have, for whatever reason he's made them personal, we'll sort out in the octagon sooner or later.
Well, what'd you think of a little bit of sarcasm from Whitaker and just a little bit of the smart guy talk, the level-headed, chill guy talk?
I like it. I think
so do I.
It's his play. Like, I think that's where he belongs. If he were to try and do anything else other than that, I just don't think it would work.
Mm-hmm.
I think his nickname is edgy. I think his fighting style is edgy, but him himself, he's just that cool, calm, like a little notch above GSP. Remember when GSP could be gangster from here and there every now and again with a comment? That to me is Robert Whitaker. If he does too much of it, it's not really sincere.
In this last cut here, before we go to break, he talks about, and I hope I'm reading this right, that Stylebender, Israel Adesanya, can't stand that people like Whitaker more. I think that's...
Personally, I think because he can't stand the fact that, like, people like me more than him.
Yeah.
And even if they don't, he can't stand the fact that people are talking about me in the same sentence as him. He just can't do it. He wants all the spotlight. He wants all the attention. And he can have it. Like I've never cared. But I find it funny that it gets to him so much. Like, just relax, man. Great fight. You got yourself a shiny belt. We can fight for my line later.
What do you think? Do people like Whitaker more or Israel Adesanya more? Because I would kindly disagree and think that more people are on the Adesanya hype train right now. No.
Yeah, it could be a thing of a case of what have you done for me lately. It's kind of how the sport works.
Mm-hmm.
And
if it is Whitaker advantage, it's like if you poll 100 people like at a UFC expo, I think the results come back 51-49 Whitaker, 52-40. I couldn't see anything overwhelming. I haven't felt that in the MMA sphere for Whitaker to say that, for me to go, yeah, he's got a point. I don't think he does. Like I would say the other way around, that most people just dig Izzy a little bit. Although Izzy, sometimes he's coming off in a way where, like, when he sat down here in December of 2017, before he was even in the UFC, when he walked out, I was like, wow, that couldn't have been a kinder gentleman.
Yeah.
But I have seen some interviews where he's just a little different. You know what I mean? Not an asshole. I'm not saying that by any stretch. Just a little bit more direct, or I don't know. Like, he's not endearing. You know what I mean? Like as he was when he was here.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Now with as popular as he's getting, maybe gets caught up in Twitter and just the right amount of people get under your nerves, or maybe he's come across other media that are trying to dissect every quote he has, and so now all of a sudden, a lot of athletes, they don't like that, or they don't like what's being printed about them, and then all of a sudden they start to step back away and have a different demeanor.
I think he got famous really, really fast, and along with doing that comes a lot of questions, right? What are you doing up here? How'd you get here so fast? I think Israel's done everything right. He's done the best he could. I think Joe Rogan, doing his podcast, blew him up really quickly. He just went from not being a nobody, but being somebody that only the hardcores knew, to now the casuals knew him right away. And I think from there he just kept jumping and jumping. But he's doing what he's supposed to do. He's getting them wins. He's fighting hard in every fight. He's showing up. It's hard to knock the guy, but I'm sure he does get those type of questions, and I'm sure it probably sours him every now and again.
Here's what I agree with Whitaker. And that's that more people will probably be more complimentary about his all-around game than Adesanya. But as far as like, boy, that Whitaker's a hell of a dude, you getting more of those than Izzy. I think more people are getting the Israel Adesanya Reebok kit, put it that way.
Okay.
Or his line would be longer. I always like to use that analogy. His line would be longer, I think, at the UFC Fan Expo line. Not by much. I mean, Whitaker's a proper champion who's faced the best of the business. He's just I don't know. He's just too nice.
I mean, oh,
sometimes
man.
those edgy fellas get a little bit more of the love.
Yeah, but he's the champ right now.
Like with
right?
Israel, you can go, hey, let's do a mean face. Hey, can you put me in a choke? Hey, let's do this. Hey, will you do a selfie or shoot, whatever. That's more of an Australian thing. Selfie for so and so or shout. I think Izzy's more playful. You know what I mean? I think Whitaker's just like, let's take the pose. Who's next? Let's take the pose. Who's next? Israel, I think, is just more fun.
He was a little dry on the Ultimate Fighter too.
Mm-hmm. All right, break time. It's this. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation Channel 156. When we come back, we'll do our daily debate. We'll stay a little bit on this theme of Israel Adesanya. So don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Their mantles are covered with participation awards. They have boxes of gold stars that they purchase themselves. They are the legends and demand your respect. Here are George and Goes.
Just underway, the Toronto Raptors host the Orlando Magic in Game 2 of their first-round playoff series. Enjoy all the thrilling play-by-play on NBA Radio, Sirius 207, XM86, and streaming on SiriusXM connected devices and speakers. That's a solid channel, folks. I definitely endorse. For me, it's 86, so I definitely endorse the NBA channel. It's awesome during the off season and during the regular season. Excuse me. They have quality shows there that feature a lot of prominent names. So check it out. I think the Toronto Raptors, because they lost Game 1, I think they're going to come back with a vengeance and win Game 2, cover it, and go over. That's just my opinion. Who knows? The NBA is a crapshoot. Goes. Did you see the Golden State Warriors? They were up by 20 in the second half.
More.
They lost to the L.A. Clippers.
They were up by, I think, 31.
31?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I believe you. Lou Williams. Lou Williams played for the Lakers for like a year, I think. Maybe 2. And that guy's a solid streak shooter. Remember Vinny the Microwave Johnson with Detroit?
Yeah.
Something like
That's
that.
a long time ago.
Where if you get hot, the dudes are unstoppable that are like him. And Lou Williams is more well known as a six man. In fact, I think he won that award. And I think he came from Toronto to the Lakers. When we got him, I was like, that's a good guy to have. When we traded him, I'm like, what are you doing? You just keep that guy. He's never going to ask you for $30 million. Pay him whatever, but you'll always have a good, solid veteran. He went to Houston, I think now, and now he's doing his thing with the Clippers. Good on them, man.
One day I'd like to do our all 6-man team. Remember when March Madness we were sitting here doing teams?
Mm-hmm. 6-man, like real NBA 6-man teams?
Yeah. Those are fun.
That'd be cool.
There were a lot of them.
In fact,
remember when Harden was a 6-man for the longest time?
He was.
Yeah.
With the Thunder. All 6-man team. All right. Okay, so let's do our daily debate. Let's discuss a little bit more this whole thing going on with Israel Adesanya and John Jones.
The brothers Garcia seemingly can't agree on anything.
Everybody knows it's duck season.
Rabbit season.
Duck season.
Rabbit season.
Whether it's food,
Less filling.
Tastes great.
Less filling.
Tastes great.
gambling,
Always bet on black.
I like red.
Black.
Red.
Black.
Red.
Black, dummy.
or even social media.
Instagram.
Snapchat.
Instagram.
Snapchat.
The same applies to the biggest stories in MMA. Time for MMA Junkie Radio's Daily Debate.
You ready, fool?
Let's do it.
You answered the fool. You answered to what you are. All right, today's hashtag daily debate for at MMA Junkie Radio is hashtag UFC interim middleweight champion Israel Adesanya ready to fight light heavyweight champ John Jones now, or does he need more seasoning? Hashtag UFC 236. Here are your choices. Book it now, or 12 to 24 months from now, or 24 to 48 months from now, or you crazy, never.
12 to 24 months from now.
Okay.
I think that's the sweet spot. Right now, it doesn't make too much sense because there are challengers there for Izzy, right? Let him play that out. Let him get a little better. And then maybe we could talk about a matchup like this. What it reminds me of, and I'm not saying that Izzy can't compete now. I think he has the skills to compete now. But what it reminds me of is Henry Cejudo and Mighty Mouse. The first time they fought, we said, awesome, great matchup for Mighty Mouse. However, Henry Cejudo looks like he's good, and he's even getting better. He's starting to get the hang of things. I kind of wish that fight happened maybe a year later, right? But he fought him. He had to. It was the moment. You don't pass those up, and they fought. But what happened when they fought the second time? That's what I feel like would happen with this fight. I feel like maybe John Jones would take him now, but I think with a little bit more seasoning, it would just be a better matchup later, and I think Izzy could maybe take it later.
That's an
He's
excellent
getting better.
example. It really is, except that it stayed within 125. There was no disruptor.
Mm-hmm.
So in 12 to 24 months, I'm going to obviously pick on the sooner of the two. 12 months. What do you tell Paulo Costa, who's undefeated and looks great? What do you tell Jacare, who's threatening, hey, man, if you're not going to give me a title shot, fuck this, I'm retiring. And Yoel Romero is just this incredible athletic phenom who never seems to age. He may be the one guy that defeats Father Time. If he grabs a win or two, what do you tell him? Because, look, Adesanya is already saying September's too soon. We're going to use April, he won it. In 12 months is when you're saying I'd like to see him fight Whitaker. Well, if he gets Whitaker, let's call it November or December in that stadium or whatever. Let's just say he wins. Now you're starting to enter that, you know, I would want him to take another fight defending his title before he even gets to, like, the John Jones talk. This might have to be on the right towards 24 months for me to, like, subscribe, because I feel like you just have other guys. I mean, Weidman's always around. You know, Costa, Romero, Jacare. Kelvin Gastelum's going to want to run it back at some point. I don't know.
It's not a video game. They're not sitting around waiting for each fight to happen. They're fighting each other, too, while this has happened. So some guys are going to be picking each other off. What I think is going to happen is both guys are going to be winning in such devastating fashion that it's really going to make us go, what if? Because John Jones looks unstoppable. And I think that trend's going to continue, and you're going to look for that type of fighter that could possibly defeat him. And we're going to keep looking at Izzy and going, man, he does have a pretty good skill set, and he is getting better. I think you're right. It's going to come closer to the end of that, not the beginning of it. But I think we're all going to get talked into it.
John Jones weighs in at 205. What's he fight at? 225, 230?
At least.
Go play with the big boys. That's what everybody's been saying.
Okay, that I understand.
Go do that. Leave Izzy alone. Leave middleweight alone. Let that flourish a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And 24 to 48 months is more of my liking.
I hear you. I mean, to be honest, I don't even really understand the call out, right? If you're trying to prove yourself, you look up. You don't look down.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it's kind of strange. I don't think Izzy needs to play by his rules. I think John needs to play by Izzy's rules.
By the way, are you closer to You Crazy Never or Book It Now?
You Crazy Never.
Me too.
Because Book It Now wouldn't make any sense.
Right, me too. All right, cool. A little bit of a slight disagreement there, but for the most part, I think we're leaning more towards, oh my God, just shaking your head. This champ era, this money fight era, like Dana White, you know,
it's their fault.
When he dismisses 165, he's like, these divisions are stacked. They're so much fun. But yet in other divisions, he's like, man, fuck your division. Go do this money fight and make me a ton of money.
Mm-hmm.
Go play with that guy. You know what I mean? It's funny how when certain arguments apply, he'll say certain things. And that I feel what he says.
I mean, we all
in terms of 55 and 70 and how strong they are. Except
Mm-hmm.
I do really want 165. I feel like I do like the way they are, but I think there's so much talent that you could split two up into three. But
that's the reason you would do it. You wouldn't do it if it wasn't, right?
Correct. Yeah. Thank you to. We had almost 1,000 votes. Junkie Nation, thank you for voting. This is how it broke down. 40% said, you crazy. Never. So, wow, a lot of people shutting it down. That's about 400 votes. 33% said 24 to 48 months. So, between those two, 73%, almost 3/4 are just like, get out of my face. I want nothing to do with it. And I applaud those. 20% agreed with you at 12 to 24 months, and 7% said, book it now. Wow. No respect at all for the current 205ers and the current 85ers. I don't know. All right. So there you have it. There's today's daily debate brought to you by the MMA Junkie radio team.
I don't believe those guys at the bottom.
What's that?
I don't believe those guys at the bottom.
You Crazy Never?
You Crazy Never, yeah.
And why is that?
You know who they are? You know when you're at a club and it's really, you just walked in and you're looking around, you're going, all right, she's cute. I like what I'm seeing here. And you maybe shoot down a couple people at first, but then as the night gets later and later, you start going, man, I should have gone with that first. That's them. So what happens at the end of the night when they go, all right, the fight's here, we're going to make it happen, they're going to go, all right, okay, yeah, I'll come, I'll pay for that. They're in, trust me.
The nightclub
They
analogy.
get us.
I like it. All right. Look, here's the other thing regarding this fight. I guess I was holding on to this. Israel Adesanya can strike with anyone because he fought and was successful in kickboxing. So him versus Jones in kickboxing is interesting, but Jones has an amazing ground and pound game that a lot of people don't want any part of.
His defense is good too.
Yes. And so Adesanya on the feet versus Jones, you know, again, he's fighting a bigger dude and a more experienced dude. But that's why that 24 to 48 months, I would want Israel Adesanya to maybe develop a little bit of a ground game or ground defense, you know, the ability to get back up and not get smashed. And not too many people, once Jones takes you down, not too many people get up. There's a lot of other people that also said, man, Jones all day, no one can hang, blah, blah, blah. And I've seen Alexander Gustafsson had some moments in the first fight. So I don't believe that Jones is untouchable either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Anyway. All right, let's take some calls. And if you want to follow these jokers, it's 877-FIGHT-93, 877-344-4893. Who do we have?
Let's go with Kevin in Chicago.
What's up, Kevin?
What's up, guys? Got to talk about the fights this weekend. Didn't get a chance to talk to you about it yesterday. So a lot of people were saying the Max Holloway-Dustin Poirier fight was closer, that it might have been a draw or Mike Holloway even won. And I didn't agree with that. I thought Poirier won 4 rounds to 1, and one of those rounds being a 10-8. I thought he clearly won. But what I am surprised with is they thought Adesanya ran away with the fight at the end. Like, they thought he clearly won the fight. But if you break down the rounds, Kelvin Gastelum, he won the first round. He hurt him. He won the fourth round. He hurt Adesanya with a head kick. And the fifth round, Adesanya won 10-8 round. That was clear. So 2 rounds were clear to Kelvin. 1 round was clear to Adesanya, and the 10-8 being the fifth round for Adesanya. So that second and third round were both really close, and I gave Kelvin one of them. So I had the fight a draw. So I thought, what's your guys' thoughts on that? Do you think the fight was closer than kind of people thought? I think they're just looking at that fifth round, and they're judging the whole fight as off the fifth round. But if you judge it round by round, I actually scored it a draw.
All right. I had it 2-2 going into the fifth. And when I look at the judges' scorecards, Bell, Coffey, and Manis were the judges. Mm-hmm. They also had it the same way. And they were very consistent. They all gave Gastelum round 1, and I agreed with that. They all gave Adesanya 2 and 3. I also agreed with that. Gastelum got number 4, and then Adesanya got number 5. But he got number 5 at 10-8, and I thought it was pretty consistent. Kevin, you're on an island on this one because when I look at the media scores, they all have either the 48-46, actually most of them, which makes me happy because it seems like we were all on the same wavelength. And it also means that it was a competitive fight going into the fifth. And then there's a couple 48-47s, and that's fine too. But there's no one there calling it a draw, and there's definitely no one calling it for Gastelum. Not saying that you are, but I'm giving you the scores here. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think we
close the second and third round. Wait, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, the second and third round, they were close, but I just thought that third round, Kelvin got a takedown. But either way, I mean, they're super close, so can't complain either way. But if Kelvin, this is why you got to be a well-rounded fighter, man. He relies on his stand-up too much. In that fifth round, he hit a nice Peterson roll. He ended up on top, and he almost got caught in a triangle by a kickboxer. Come on, man, that fight was yours. All you got to do is press those legs to the side, right out the position on top, and that fight is his. But he's another guy. He's a wrestler, but he doesn't really wrestle. He likes to stand and trade. And you said the same thing about Derek Brunson. He's a wrestler, but he likes to stand and trade. When's the last time you saw Derek Brunson and Kelvin Gastelum go out and implement a wrestling-based attack for 5 rounds, for 3 rounds? They never do it. But I still think Adesanya, Jacare, Chris Weidman, those are nightmare matchups for him. This Kelvin Gastelum and Robert Whitaker fight, those are very winnable fights. But either way, it was still impressive. I'm looking forward to that Dustin Poirier versus Khabib fight. I think Poirier can catch him, knock him out. But, I mean, it's a long shot, but can't count out Dustin Poirier, man. Dude's got really good boxing, really talented to go along with the toughness. Okay. Yeah, that's what I call for today, guys. Take it easy.
Thank you. All right, so a couple things here. For one, Gastelum almost getting triangled. I think a little bit of it was, hey, look, Izzy's working on things. You know, he's adding tools to the toolbox. But, man, in that fifth round, he had been knocked down 4 times. And think about how exhausted they were. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, goes, okay, you're by no means a professional bowler. But let's just say when you go to the alleys, you always average 120. Is that right? Or 150? What are you?
I wish I averaged 120. All right, 100, yeah.
100. And then before you go bowling, you run a marathon. The first time you walk up, there's a chance you may gutter ball, right? Because you're going to be fucking exhausted from the marathon. You barely tying your shoes. You walk up. You're like, I really wish I wasn't bowling because I just ran a marathon. But here we go. You may just, your mind, your body, just it may not throw that middle ball that you usually throw where you get a 7 or an 8 average along 10 frames, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just think he was just a little bit tired and exhausted.
He just wasn't expecting it.
Probably, you know. Same thing where one could say, hey, Adesanya, this guy's a wrestler, and you let him head kick you, you know what I mean? Where was your defense? You're a former professional kickboxer. But guess what? Gastelum trains other shit, too. That's why he was able to land that kick to the head, and it wobbled Adesanya. You know what I mean? Both guys have a lot of skills. As far as Poirier and what he's saying, yeah, he's got a shot, because you can't tell Poirier you ain't got a shot against any lightweight in the world. You just can't. But
Khabib's been touched before, though.
He has.
That's the thing.
But keeping it real, it will take a lot of work in the takedown defense department. getting up, and sweeping, and a lot of work put there, for Poirier to put in. And I think anyone that is going to make the Poirier case, do some homework and check out the Poirier fights and just see how he's done on the ground and see, because right now Khabib just seems to be this freight train that is very, very hard to stop. Edson Barbosa had a couple successes here and there, and Al Iaquinta, it's not like he's a lock. It's not like when he fought Abel Trujillo. I mean, what did he have, like 23 suplexes and takedowns? Nobody was stopping him there. There's a lot of fighters that have had a couple of the abilities to stop, to stop the guy, but we're not even close to that fight being booked. We're just reacting to this one. Who's next?
Marco from Waco, brother.
What's up, Marco?
Marco from Whitaker, ¿qué pasa, vatos?
What's up, man?
So, I'm going to start by, this is a special request from Judge, and I actually agree with him. There is one character that arose from the post-fight press conference, the Schmo. This dude give me a Clearwater Beach bad boy vibe. He sounds like him. He acts like him. He asks questions like him.
Like who?
You got to copy the best.
Clearwater Beach bad boy.
Oh, okay.
He gives me that vibe. He acts and behaves like the C to the triple V. So,
so you don't like him?
What?
Or did you like C to the triple V?
What don't you guys see? Invite the Schmo and see he's for real. Let's see he can keep up a stick, because we always get this weird characters in MMA once in a while, and they become something.
Hey, Marco, can I ask you a question, Marco?
Go ahead.
Would you be interested in hearing the Schmo on any of the channels here on Fight Nation?
On MMA Junkie Radio, the premier channel, the only show that matters. Now,
how about you guys? Where do you stand?
You're on Team Schmo, right?
Yeah.
I'm on Team Don't Know, but I can be Schmo.
And Josh is on Team Schmo. All right.
All about it.
So, I'll be honest, Josh, we were talking about this before the show a few hours ago, and I couldn't have dismissed it any quicker. And then I got caught up on one of those, what do you call it, like a little YouTube marathon?
A rabbit hole?
You just kind of keep it on as you're doing stuff or whatever, and then all of a sudden it circled back to... Actually, no, it started with me reading Ben Folks' article, and I got on a YouTube channel, and next thing you know, Schmo popped up. I thought Schmo was a fan who had just said something when it was his turn. What I didn't realize is he's been doing this for a while now, interviewing MMA fighters, interviewing athletes. So I got caught, perfect, a rabbit hole on YouTube of checking it out. And the dude, within 30 minutes, grew on me.
Where did it start and where did it end?
To the point where I started laughing towards the end. I go, check this out. Because he had one reaction where his improv, which is pretty good, I got to give it up, it looked like he just didn't have anything to say. Or maybe he wanted to wind down. I don't know. And he just gave him like a, okay, and left it at that. So I'm with you, Marco. We'll see if we can book the Schmo.
I'd say this, man. It's tough to interview people just being a normal cat, but let alone having a character and having to keep that up too.
Right.
It's pretty tough.
Yeah. I couldn't do that because I would be a filthy, sweaty mess. For one, he's wearing a jacket. Dude. Oh, wow. Tampa Bay tied it, goes?
No, now it's
4-3 Columbus. But wow, it was 3-1 like literally 5 minutes ago. Tampa Bay tied it, now it's 4-3. Anyway, I would be a complete mess because it seems like he's a lot of in character with the jacket, you know what I mean? And I think I'd have to change my shirt.
Let me ask you this. Are we interviewing him or is he interviewing us?
I don't know. But I can also appreciate his hustle. It's something completely different. The only thing I would say though, but I wouldn't say this on the show, but it's like at some point, see, I don't know his age or anything. How long can you schmo? Like at some point, like, what are you going to do? Like be in your 40s and still schmoing it? Like, are you committing to this as a career or just to just get you in the door? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you remember a guy named Marcus? We're done with him, right?
Yeah.
Let him go. What was his name? Keith.
You may go now, Marco.
I think someone stepped on his toe there at the end. Keith. No, not Overman. Who was the guy that goes in local LA radio? Let me think about it. We got to take this break, and we'll see if we can remember his name. But he was eccentric like that, but he kept it up. Anyway, it's MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation, channel 156. We'll be right back after this break. Talk a little bit about the rankings that were definitely affected by the action from this past weekend. All right, so a little bit of rankings chatter here. Let's talk about the only rankings that matter: the USA Today Sports and MMA Junkie rankings. What's so funny?
I was just laughing at something.
Oh, okay. What was it?
Thing up on the screen.
What happened?
The guy took a hockey stick and hooked the other guy, and then when the referee looked at him, he kind of went like, "Who, me?"
Oh, okay. Here are the latest pound-for-pound rankings for USA Today Sports. Daniel Cormier, number 1. Demetrius Johnson, number 2. Habib Nurmagomedov, number 3. John Jones, number 4. Henry Cejudo, number 5. Ryan Bader, number 6.
Ooh.
Max Holloway, number 7. Robert Whitaker, number 8. Kamaru Usman, number 9. Israel Adesanya, number 10. He debuts. TJ Dillashaw, number 11. Tony Ferguson, number 12. Stipe Miocic, number 13. Tyron Woodley, number 14. Dustin Poirier debuts at number 15. Honorable mentions: Conor McGregor, Marlon Moraes, and Brian Ortega. Now remember, this is any weight class, the pound-for-pound list. So that's why you see flyweights mixed with heavyweights and so on. So let me explain something here. Some might say, Adesanya and Poirier both won interim titles. Why are they 5 spots apart? Adesanya was at 10, and Poirier was at 15. Well, Adesanya is undefeated. So when you get to these guys, I'm telling you, man, the slightest little hiccup. His hair was out of place at the press conference. Oh, move him a spot. Obviously, I'm kidding, but no, because these guys are almost infallible. I was gonna say these guys and gals because I usually have to say that in this sport, but actually, this pound for they have their own list, so I stopped myself. I repeated myself. They just rarely mess up. Now, since we have like a minute or so, people will say, "Why is Jones number 4?" Remember, he's been away for a long time. He's only started to fight recently, and
Nice little streak, though.
yeah, I mean the 2 in a row or whatever. But I have to just go off the tangible evidence. And remember, one of the Cormier fights was taken away, and then in the meantime, all these other fighters are doing stuff. Now, part of what makes Jones great is because he's never lost. But at the same time, if you're never fighting, then there's possibility of never losing is a lot higher, correct?
Yeah.
So, and these other guys are out there putting it on the line nonstop. Cormier was a light heavyweight champ and a heavyweight champ. He's also a heavyweight strike force champion. You know what I mean? So that is the definition of pound for pound. How do you dominate your division? How would a fighter do in another division? We don't have to wonder with some of these guys because they've actually done it in other divisions. So, there's many different criterias out there. It comes from boxing. And I try and apply it as honest and as fair as possible. Demetrius Johnson just got a win. It kind of preserved his spot. But luckily it was a finish. And I'm telling you, if there was like a split decision, he may lose his spot to a guy like Habib who has never lost. But Johnson was at the top for so long, he may do a slow fallout. I can continue this here in the next hour. As well, we still have
because I'd like to weigh in on this.
20 minutes before we get to Ilima-Lei Macfarlane, the Bellator flyweight champion. She'll be joining us in the second hour, but I can definitely talk a little bit more of this. Another thing we can do is take calls at 877-FIGHT93, 877-344-4893, and you can hit us up on Twitter at MMA on SiriusXM or personally at MMA Junkie George at the Goes and tell us what you think of these rankings. We'll be right back.
About to break down the latest in MMA news. Here are George, Goes, and Dan.
All right, you still want me to continue here with the
Yes.
rankings? You're enjoying it? All right. So I think I left off as A. Why is Jones 4? Why is DC 1? Jones will slowly creep up. When you're as great as Jones and Khabib, and when your record says you've never lost, you're just gonna take bigger steps. All right. You're also gonna hold your spots as you start to fall down. You're gonna hold them a little bit more because the bottom line is you gotta win. All right. And if you win impressively within your division, and if you've gone into other divisions and held your own as well, then that carries a lot of weight. But remember, again, this is the creme de la creme, and any slight hiccup can cause you to tumble. In fact, Max Holloway was actually number 5. He lost. Now, some will say, bitch, he didn't lose his title. He didn't lose at 104. No, but he attempted to go to 155, and he lost. The same way DC was rewarded by beating Stipe Miocic, arguably the best UFC heavyweight champion ever. Well, Max did lose. All right, Henry Cejudo ain't losing. He hasn't been losing. He just beat the bantamweight champ, who dropped to the flyweight division to fight him, but he beat him. Ryan Bader, who's been a pretty solid competitor in the UFC as a light heavyweight, then goes over to Bellator and captures that belt. He went in and won the heavyweight Grand Prix. What do I tell those guys? You know what I mean? They've been pretty great as of late. Henry Cejudo's back-to-back are Demetrius Johnson and TJ Dillashaw. That's impressive. And then Bader's impressive as well. Holloway, I felt, needs to take a little bit of a bump. The reason he stopped right before Whitaker is because Whitaker's a great champion, except technically he doesn't even have a title defense yet. Now, one of them wasn't his fault because Romero didn't make weight, but technically the stats just don't show that. But he's had a great run, but another thing is your championship run. What's that like? You know what I mean? And Holloway's had title defenses. Bader's had title defenses. Cejudo now has a title defense. Cejudo also had a couple wins at 35, but that's not really what that's not really what's gotten his resume. I got to at some point account for the fact that Cejudo recently beat Johnson. The good thing about it is Johnson did beat him. Everyone forgets that one, so they're 1-1. But I'm a big proponent of head-to-head. That's usually you see a little bit more of that being reflected in the
best decider in
it's
our
the best.
sport, no?
Yeah, no matter what. Every once in a while,
who's better? Let's make them fight.
Exactly. Yeah. Every once in a while, someone can go on a 3-fight losing streak and the other on a 3-fight winning streak since they fought, and so at some point you just gotta, you gotta shift that. But what did you have any questions or?
Well, I'm gonna be a dick for a little bit, okay? And for anybody that's known me on this show, I've been saying this since day one, so this isn't something that is just coming out. I've never been a fan of pound for pound going past 5 fighters. Because in my opinion, I grew up in the boxing generation, okay? And I know we do this on MMA Junkie. A lot of people do. But this is the way I look at it. The reason you even have to have a pound for pound argument is because you have fighters that are so good that it makes you wonder, man, I wonder if this guy were to able to somehow get down in weight or go up in weight, could they challenge this other great fighter? They're so good that it makes you wonder that. But there should only be 3 to 5 people on the planet that you would even want to have that argument for. I feel like anything after that is just a good fighter. Okay? Anybody in your pound for pound between 3 and 5, 1 to 5, these are fighters that automatically, no matter what happens today, should be going down in the history books, and 20 years from now, we're still going to talk about them. Okay? But once you get past 5, I feel like you just have good fighters. They're good. We may not be talking about them 20 years from now. That's okay. They're good fighters. But 1 through 5 is great, and that's why we have to have pound for pound. So if you look at our top 5, Daniel Cormier, he's going in the record books, right?
He'll never be forgotten.
Demetrius Johnson's going to be one of the best flyweights of all time. Khabib Nurmagomedov is
never be forgotten.
He's destroying people. John Jones, we're saying, is going to be one of the greatest athletes ever. Henry Cejudo's an Olympic gold medalist and a mixed martial arts champion. You know how hard that is to do?
No one's ever done it.
Nobody's going to forget that. Number 6, Ryan Bader. He's a good fighter. He's a damn good fighter. But I don't know he's that guy that makes you go, man, remember the era of Ryan Bader?
What
And
about
it's
Max
nothing
Holloway,
against him.
though?
Max
Some
Holloway
think maybe
is
the
a
best
very
featherweight
tough
ever.
fighter. A very tough fighter. Okay?
He's not iconic yet.
I don't know that he's iconic the
Okay.
way some of these names are going to be.
Your argument actually holds up. I think MMA is different because there's a more frequency of fights between, like, you don't get to 28-0 and go, now we should put him up against a contender. Like in boxing, here at 8-0, you're like, put him up against a contender. You know what I mean? And right away, the greatness can either start or fizzle out. So I think MMA will be treated differently. But your argument actually holds up here with these fighters that we talked about. Some, of course, might take offense because they're just starting out. Like Adesanya's 17-0, but he's actually he's going to be a champ, and he may defend the next 10. We don't know. Usman, same thing. He just became champ. We'll see. But, okay, solid. Holloway, had he won, he would be in that top 5, and your whole thing would change. Your whole argument might change just based off that one fight, because that would have been pretty interesting.
Yeah,
to be a featherweight and lightweight champ.
It's double weight classes. That's tough to do, right? So I would be okay with that.
All right. Well, if you ever have questions on these, they change every Tuesday. They're published, the new ones, and you'll see them in Wednesday's newspaper. We only go to 10 there, but here we go to 15 with honorable mentions. You could argue we're going all the way to 18, except the honorable mentions are just listed in alphabetical order. They're not 16, 17, 18 per se. Sometimes they may land the way that I'm thinking that they may be, but I've always been pretty proud of these. I put a lot of time into it, and then the editors check them over and they chime in, and sometimes we go with their decision making as well. I really don't have an ego. I think 3 or 4 weeks ago, like John and I may have had
an ego, George.
No, honestly, there's a lot of times when they say something, I'm like, yeah, run it. I'd say 90% of the time. I think like 3-4 weeks ago, John and I had an exchange that went back and forth like 3-4 times. But in the end, I think he was like, oh, okay. Like we just saw each other's point, and that was it, because we were like literally arguing over like a photo finish in you know what I mean, in horse racing, like something so close that I don't know. Maybe a photo finish is bad because that's a clearly defining finish. A photo finish, except with no photo. You know what I mean? Like, oh, really? I thought the other horse won it, and he thought something else. But we've made this work, man, for a good 5-7 years since we've been doing this, and maybe we'll highlight it more often and more consistently. All right, so let's do Showtime from Tennessee. He's just called in right now. If you want to follow him, 877-FIGHT-93. What's up, Showtime? How are you?
Hey, what's going on, fellas?
Not much, man.
Man, I had a blast, man, at the card this weekend, man. It was a damn good night of fights. We had a couple of lulls, a couple clunkers, on the card. But other than that, man, that fucking co-main in Maine was off the chain. I mean, it's a good card when the fans are basically cheering in between rounds. I don't know if you guys can hear this watching it on TV, but when they were standing up, man, to come back out in between rounds, the fans were standing and clapping. I mean, this shit was crazy. I've been to a bunch of cards and getting standing ovations after both fights. I mean, it was nuts, man.
That the greatest card you've ever seen live?
I don't know, but I mean, just right off hand, since we kind of in the "what have you done for me lately" era, yeah, it was. I mean, guys putting it on the line, guys not.
I'd say it was the greatest co-main in Maine back and forth, one 1-2 punch. If I'm not mistaken, wasn't McDonald Lawler the same night as Mendez McGregor as well? Or, yeah, that was a great card too. So I think we're getting a little carried away with greatest card ever. I think it was the greatest ending to a card ever, or maybe greatest co-main ever. Or yeah, I guess in Showtime's case, if he's been to a certain number of fights, then yeah, he's the one that could judge that for himself. But for me, it was probably as good as I've ever seen with a co-main followed by a main, or 2 title fights, or the strongest finish ever, which is the same thing, I guess, as co-main and main. But yeah, it was great, man. Now, actually, I'll say this after Showtime's call. But yeah, go ahead and finish up. But what else?
Yeah, that you hit it right on the head, George. That's the best co-main and main. I agree with you 100% on that. But I want to bust your balls on this list, man. John Jones, man. I mean, he only fought a couple times, but shit, we can't have him at 4, man. You know, just I heard you talking about him and Adesanya, man. He'll take Adesanya down, man, whenever he gets ready. Like in my Conor McGregor voice, he'll do nothing. You know, he'll take him down whenever he'll tell him he's gonna take him down, and he couldn't stop it.
You didn't put much effort in that Conor one, by the way. But I got what you were saying.
Going away,
all right, so what was your argument, though? He needs to be higher than 4, or he'll take it down Adesanya quicker, or was it both there?
Yeah, he need to be higher than 4, man. He needs to be higher than 4.
Well, look, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Remember, he hasn't been that active up until December. All right? And that is what helps pad your resume. Now, remember, John Jones has only been a light heavyweight. That's it. So, what do we have? And I'm not even going to count his one loss to Matt Hamill. We're going to throw that out the window. We're going to call him 25-0 or 24-0, whatever you want to call him. Khabib is 27-0. And he's been fighting more frequently. That's why he's on top of John Jones. In probably a deeper division, too. Demetrius Johnson had a successful run at 135 before he became a dominant champion at 125. He had more title defenses than John Jones. So, even though he lost to Cejudo, he's also got the win over Cejudo, but he just had this long-ass run. And it also helped that he dabbled in 2 divisions. And then Daniel Cormier's got the one loss to John Jones. But again, John Jones, look, I told you, John Jones will make his way back up as long as he continues winning. All right? But you can't argue with the fact that Daniel Cormier has tested himself in 2 different divisions and won 2 major belts just as an undisputed champion. And he also took home a very respected Grand Prix back in the Strikeforce days. So that's why I think John Jones is where he is. Now, John Jones will slowly creep up because he is just so dominant over his division, for one. Well, Khabib, so is Khabib. I don't know. We'll see how this works out. But, again, I think John Jones will just he'll have that spot once again as long as he keeps doing what he's always done, because he had that spot for a long time. It's just we had to move away from him because you can't just sit at the top if you're not fighting either.
Yeah, I guess that make a little sense, man. But I don't know, man.
All right. Well, at least you gave me that. At least you gave me that, which means you listened. You know what I mean? You kept an open mind. Thanks for the call.
Yep. Okay, guys.
All right. See ya. Are you? Do you have a problem with the whole John Jones thing? You understand his point, my point?
I think you guys both made good points, but I understand it.
Mm-hmm. All right. Here's one thing I wanted to say. And I'm surprised I didn't bring it up yesterday. Dana White was coming at all the haters, I think he called them. He said maybe some of you guys in this room, he was talking to the media, on interim fights.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like as if to say, you see why I did it? Well, first of all, I heard someone say a shout out to the matchmakers. I don't hate the matchmakers. They're pretty cool guys. They've always been nice and respectful to us and our show. But I wish more of the credit went to the fighters. Like, it's not that hard for me to call Dana. Well, for one, I really don't have his number. For me to call John to call Dana or Kevin Iole or whatever, or just storm the office and say, hey, man, how about Gaethje and McGregor? Now, don't you feel pretty good that fight would be a barn burner?
Yeah.
Does that all of a sudden make me a great matchmaker?
No.
It's more on the fact that Gaethje and McGregor are fucking awesome fighters, right?
Right.
And their styles have proven over time that, you know, and I also wouldn't hold it against them for Ngannou and Lewis Suckin. Like, I wouldn't go, Mick, what were you thinking? Or Sean, I don't know who does heavyweight, but I wouldn't go, what the fuck? What were you doing putting those two together? No, because those two guys laid an egg. You know, their job is more, I think the difficult thing is just managing all that roster. Hey, this guy's about to be out of contract. We got to get him his fights. Or this guy would be ideal here because he went to college here. And maybe he might draw tickets. Or
timing
or maybe this
too,
or maybe this guy on his way down can put this guy on his way up over. You know, I think there's a lot of other things other than just the match itself. I heard that comment. I was just like, no, it wasn't Dana, Mick, and Sean. It was just that how Poirier versus anyone is not going to suck, let alone Poirier versus Max Holloway. The same way where Max Holloway against anyone isn't going to suck, let alone against Poirier.
But it is 2 different weight classes, right? Initially, it wasn't what they wanted. They wanted Ferguson in that spot.
Right, and so the other thing is this. The other thing is Dana saying, "You see why I did it? That's why you do these."
That I thought was silly.
Yeah, because they could have just, like, one of them could have headlined Russia and been 5 rounds. Because one of his argument was like, interim fights, they went 5 rounds. It would have sucked if they only went 3. He's right, but you could easily just say, well, you know what? Well, you guys headline Russia next week, and you guys headline this pay-per-view, or even Rochester in a few weeks. And guess what? You probably would have gotten the same fight. Now, he says they dug a little deeper because it was for the belt. No, it's just because they didn't want to get their ass kicked. No one wants to lose, and everyone wants to get closer to a title. You could just call it a number 1 contender bout, and this time for sure give it to them rather than change your mind and have them fight the undisputed champion. He says, well, you also get pay-per-view points. Well, that's going to be a whole other animal in the ESPN era, and I don't want to get into that right now because I really don't know too much about it. I'm finding out little things, you know, how the pay-per-views, the views, the buys won't matter as much as they used to. That's a whole other thing.
For the UFC.
One thing you can always do for the UFC, if you really want those fighters to make more, because they deserve it, just pay them more. He's part owner. He's the president. He can write a check anytime he wants. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you feel like they deserve it, then just give it to them. You don't have to disguise it as anything else. Now, I get his point. More people want to buy a pay-per-view that has a championship belt attached to it. I think the studies have been done by that years ago, and I think they hold up. So I get that part of the marketing, but it doesn't make the people on the other side of that microphone or that podium idiots. Trust me, man. MMA media is pretty sharp, fellas and gals.
I don't think it's bad what he said. I mean, about the interim, yeah, I thought that was a little dumb. But as far as giving shine to the matchmakers, I'm all right with it. But I think we all know it was a fighter.
No, I think it was either a fighter on the show or no, I don't think. Maybe it was Mike Bond or maybe it was one of the callers yesterday. Someone just said it, and I was like, They have an awesome job. They have a great job. I guess I'm partly envious because
timing's really important.
I mean, how much more fun could it be? Exactly. And dealing with those egos and getting them to travel across the world, I get that. But as far as like the matchup itself, look, anyone that's in the UFC is an outstanding fighter for the most part. Some are like, I only wrestle. And some are like, I can strike, and if you take me down, I'll submit in 2 seconds. But it's not going to be that way forever. The specialized guys and gals are going away. But if you're in the UFC and you grab 2 top 10 guys or gals or 15 or 20, you're pretty much going to get yourself a good fight. And every once in a while, you're not, just because I think it's just the game of chance.
You know who I think he should shine light on that he never does? The fans. Because you're a maniac if you don't think those guys weren't driven by the applause, the standing ovations, the roar of the crowd. If you don't think that drives you at the end when you're dying in there, you're wrong. They play a part too.
For every time you say, man, those on Twitter, the fans on Twitter, or the fans are giving me a hard time, they're jerk-offs, they're this, they're that, whatever, you better come back with about 49. Hey, man, aren't the fans outstanding? Aren't the fans of our sport awesome? Aren't the fans of Gastelum or whatever? You know what I mean? Because you're isolating too much on a real low percentage of people that love to hate rather than the quality fans that are out there and spend a lot of money on MMA. MMA is not an easy fan to be it's not easy on the pocket for a fan. For you to be a fan, it costs a lot of money. We do it. Anyway, all right, I think we got to take a break now. So it's MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation Channel 156. We'll be back with Bellator flyweight champion Ilima-Lei Macfarlane, who's got a fight coming up. We'll talk about all that when we come back. SiriusXM's Beetle channel has a chance for you to win a weekend trip for two to Las Vegas. Our winners will see Paul McCartney's Freshen Up tour, and that's on June 28th at the T-Mobile Arena. The very next night, they'll get to enjoy a VIP experience at the Beatles Love by Cirque du Soleil at the Mirage Hotel and Casino. For official rules and to enter, go to SiriusXM.com/Beatles Las Vegas and do that before April 22nd. No additional purchase is necessary.
Who is this, Enya?
Huh? No, it's definitely not that. Want to thank Luke Thomas for that recommendation of that song.
Josh is fired up.
Isn't that Luke's style of music or something like that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But Luke can like something like that and then like the Smiths, too.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's kind of like all over the place.
Okay. I think Josh wanted... There's an update there. Ilima-Lei Macfarlane is not with us just yet, right?
Not just yet.
Okay. So we'll continue here talking about... as I walked away, I was like, I hope that didn't sound too harsh. But I think I'm being pretty honest, which is what I usually am. The matchmaker, I was thinking, you know where their real work is? Is...
contracts.
10 through 25. All right, identifying who's got championship material and who can also, because you got to please your boss, and your boss is all about the making the big fights. Dana's usually the matchmaker for these main events and some co-main events. They just turn it over to him. Well, they consult him, and he consults them back. But sorry, am I red or green?
You're red.
Okay, I didn't want to stand out of the frame there. But I think a lot of their major work is matchmaking 10 through 25 and getting them in a position to possibly be a superstar so that the company can make a lot of money. So to do that, you got to do, some certain selective type of matchmaking. And oftentimes, that and balancing out the cards. You can't look the fan in the eye and go, hey, bitch, $60 for this one, $60 for that one. And then you go, wait a minute, that one's got like 18 ranked fighters, and this one's only got 6. Like, what's the deal, I guess it's Dana's job to soothe things over. And now it's not going to matter as much because it sounds like they're getting a certain payment off every card that's just distributed, equally. So maybe it's not going to matter as much, hey, this one's deeper and this one isn't. But, luckily, I was able to sit with 2 matchmakers who told me it's really not that hard. It's mostly at the top, just getting those major stars there to sell the tickets, to move the pay-per-view. But for the most part, they have an abundance of athletes.
Well, what about when cards fall apart, though? That's a nightmare, too.
Yeah, but you can't point the finger at them and say, you did a bad job because Tony slipped and tore his ACL.
No, but I mean trying to fix a card on the spot like that, because I don't think every fighter answers the phone and says, I'm in, I'll never pass up an interview. They're going to say, I'm in, but you got to do this, you got to do that, right?
Uh-huh. Oh, sorry. Hold on a second. Yeah. It looks like CJ is getting to me here.
Why don't we take this call from Joe from H-Town while we wait?
Okay.
Cool. What up, Joe?
Good morning, fellas.
Good morning.
Hey, I want to take the time to congratulate you guys on 12 years. Doing this for 12 years, that's pretty awesome.
Thank you, sir.
I can't believe you guys still live together.
I know, right?
That was pretty good.
I got 2 things real quick on something that's not really talked about a lot. In the last maybe 5 or 6 years, they've lost like 14, 15 million subscribers. So getting on ESPN now is not the same as maybe 5 years ago. That makes a big difference. I mean, have you guys seen the ratings? I mean, they're not as great as you would think. I just don't think it means as much as it did 5 years ago. What do you guys think?
I just think because they're still at the top, it means a lot. But you're right. There's so many different options for people. I think it was yesterday or the day before, I saw something that said now Disney's going to do their own streaming service. And it's like, all right, do I want to hand them another $5 a month? I mean, there's so many people that are fighting for it that, yeah, I kind of agree it maybe isn't as big as it should be, but I think it's still big because when it comes to sports and when it comes from building something from the ground up, that's all you ever want to do, right? From day one is be on ESPN. And so, yeah, I get what you're saying, though. It does make sense. Ain't that right, Joe?
Cool. All right. Thank you for the call. What's the score, by the way, in Columbus and Tampa Bay?
Ooh, somebody just got hit in the jaw with a puck. They don't have the score up, but anyway.
All right. It's still 4-3 Columbus.
8 minutes.
The reason that's remarkable, because I know most of you are like, who gives a fook? Tampa Bay Lightning had the best record in all of hockey. And I got to give a shout out to my buddy Steve Straub. He told me, dude, these guys light it up. So oftentimes I'll put them in my parlay minus a puck and a half, and they made me some money. And so that's why because normally I couldn't tell you jack shit about the Tampa Bay Lightning, but I noticed they were always at the top of. They were handling teams, doing very well. So this is like the Golden State Warriors, I guess. I mean, not that they've matched what the Warriors have done the last 5 years, but in terms of having the best record, you just expect them to be at least a conference finalist, if not a finalist for the what's their cup called? Stanley Cup.
Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I was thinking Conn Smythe. I know that's one of their awards. And okay, so let's just say they lose. Okay, go down in 7 or maybe in 6 to get swept. What the hell?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Who has that happened to lately in any other sport?
I remember I think the Denver Nuggets took out the Seattle Supersonics like in the 90s.
Oh, that was a while.
I hate to go back so far. I couldn't tell you. I don't follow that type of stuff as close. I just I get to just who's playing. Who's in the finals, and I watch it.
Think of a number 1 seed fell last year, wasn't it?
Virginia, and then they came back and won it this year. All right, we're going to take a break. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation Channel 156. Stay close, and we'll be right back. ready to talk to the champ. Ilima-Lei Macfarlane will be defending her women's flyweight title at Bellator 220, and she'll be defending it versus Vida Arteaga. It's a really, really nice card, and it goes down on April 27th at the SAP Center in San Jose, California. Also got Rory McDonald versus John Fitch. Not only is McDonald defending his welterweight title, this is also part of the welterweight Grand Prix quarterfinals. So I really like the fact that the champ is defending it along the way. And remember, goes at the end, $1 million to the winner. Like Phil Davis, Liam McGeary, Benson Henderson. So a lot of fighters that have worn gold or are currently wearing gold are featured on this fight card. It all goes down on DAZN at 10 p.m. DAZN only on 10 p.m. Eastern Star Time. And again, that's on April 27th. All right, let's talk to the champ, Ilima-Lei Macfarlane. Hi, Ilima-Lei. How are you? Welcome back to MMA Junkie Radio.
Hi, what's up, guys? It's always a pleasure coming on here.
Oh, well, thank you very much. The pleasure is ours. Really, really excited to talk to you. And I was perusing a little bit through your Instagram. Love the picture with you and Canelo Alvarez. Two champions there posing inside of a ring.
Yeah, a lot of people loved that picture. Probably like my most popular post as of lately.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, I could see that. I mean, he's super popular, and he's at the top of his game.
Yeah, he only has like 4 million followers.
And you're at the top of your game. Was it just a picture, or did you have a chance to ask questions or get any training in? How was that encounter there?
Yeah, so it was actually a birthday surprise for me that the crew from DAZN put together. And so, we were shooting that day, and it happened to be my birthday. And so they were like, oh, we have a surprise for you in the afternoon. And I really, truly thought they were going to take me out for, like, cake and ice cream or something. But they ended up taking me to, like, this unmarked building that actually looked really sketchy. And they're like, go inside. I'm like, oh, my gosh, what's going to happen? And I walked inside. And it's Canelo's private gym, and so that was awesome. But then they like sat me down and they started wrapping my hands. I'm like, oh, wait, what am I doing? And they're like, oh, you're gonna train. I'm like, wait, what? And so they ended up. I did some mitts with his trainer, and then I turn around and Canelo's standing right there, like watching. So it was pretty cool. It was really embarrassing. I kept saying like, oh, I'm not a boxer, I'm a luchadora. I'm like, I wrestle. So it was cool. It was hilarious, and we got to talk story for a little bit afterwards. Even though there's that language barrier, we understood each other. It was champ talk.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm envious, and that's one hell of a birthday surprise. Did he offer any technical talk at all? About the jab or the cross, or did it even get to that?
No, we were just mainly like, oh, how much weight do you have to cut? How much, how many hours of training do you do a day? Stuff like that. And then it was just cool to see like how his team works. I was watching him get ready for his training session, and man, they have a system down. Like he even has his own personal trainer there that warms up his body. Works out his body, massages it, and this is all just like prepping him for a training session. So that was really cool, and I'm like, all right, I got to get to that level next. I got to have my own personal therapist come with me to my practices.
Love it.
Yeah,
Great
it was
stuff.
definitely
That's an awesome
inspiring.
story.
Yeah, I love that you told that part of the story, because one thing that people always talk about in boxing is the Mexican fighter has this certain, there's something that they pull out of themselves, and a lot of people think they're just tough, but their training regimen is brutal. Sometimes, they're always prepared. And then I thought about in mixed martial arts, the Hawaiians, they do the exact same thing, right? Their preparation is great, and I don't think that they get the credit for it, because I think a lot of people just go, they're just tough. Do you see those similarities between the way Mexican fighters and Hawaiian fighters, the way they train and the way they perform?
Oh, for sure. I know that we are some of the most game fighters out there. Mexican and Hawaiians, man, we come to fight. So I for sure see the similarities, and even our cultural practices are very similar. we're all very family oriented. We all have big families. So yeah, it's really cool to see the similarities. And like I said, even though there was that language barrier between us, we still totally understood each other.
One more question about Instagram, and then we'll talk a little bit about the big title fight that you have coming up here on April 27th. How was Family Feud with Couture, Liddell, Bader, and Woodley? Can you talk about it? Has the episode aired, or
yeah?
Oh, damn, I missed it.
Sure. So I think the episode won't air until June, so I'll be posting more about it.
Okay,
more
as
it draws near. But yeah, oh man, it was seriously such a cool experience. It was super funny because we didn't know who our teammates were going to be until we showed up at Family Feud, and so it was really funny because when I saw all the guys, I'm like, oh, I'm definitely going to have to carry the team. Like, I'm for sure the smartest one here. And turns out I was the weakest link of everybody. So I won't tell you guys what happened. You'll have to tune into the episode. But it was for sure a highlight of my fight career so far. It was really fun.
Who was the strongest link? Can you tell us that?
Yes. Guess who was?
Man,
so there was Tyron, there was Chuck Liddell.
I'll go with Couture.
I'll
go with Couture. He seems like he's been a world traveler and I don't know, college educated. I would imagine he has a lot of answers to a lot of questions. He's lived the longest, I guess.
Yeah, but you also have to think that Family Feud, it's not like Jeopardy. They go in and it's a survey game.
Yeah.
So like,
I see.
You get what I'm saying? That's why I was like, oh, I'm way too smart for this game. But yeah, so it was actually not Couture. Yeah. So, but you guys should watch the episode. It's pretty funny. You'll see who our best guy was.
I'll tell you what, though, for as bad as you felt, one day we will show you a video of one of our friends that was on Family Feud.
Yeah, we can get our hands
and that'll make you feel a million times better when you watch it. I remember we said that.
I hope so. Yeah, because it was pretty embarrassing, the answers that I gave.
Didn't our friend, they said, like, things that go in a thermos, and he said, like, gravy or something like that. Like, nothing made sense.
Well, I know
night.
one of them was when he went up there to the buzzer thing. They asked the question, and he hit the buzzer, and then when they said, I guess I'll say his name, Boyd. His name's Boyd. And they go, Boyd? They turned to him. He just froze and didn't say anything. And then, the thing. So I think he just hit the buzzer thinking, I'll play the game, I'll hit the buzzer, and then that'll give me a chance to digest the question and say something. He just completely froze. He had a lot of embarrassing moments. In fact, he showed it to us about, I kid you not, maybe 25 years ago. And we all laughed our asses off so hard that I think his wife got mad and said, I never want to show that again. That's why he hasn't been able to find it, because we were literally laughing and dogpiling on top of each other. And it should have been one of those where he just like you, Ilima-Lei, you're having a goof on yourself, kind of like, I'm the weakest link. What are you gonna do? You know what I mean? Hey, it's just a bad night. I wish it would have been he would have taken it like that, but we continued so bad. We were way younger and more immature.
Still are.
The wife didn't like it, and I think she's the reason that things never come out. Because in 25 years, we beg him, and now I think he's at the age where he doesn't give an F. He should just roll with it. But yeah, one day we'll get our hands on it. Anyway.
Yeah, for sure. You gotta send it to me.
Yeah, but I'm glad that you had that meeting with Canelo. I think, that happened to look like a few weeks ago, but I think that's something you can take into this fight with Arteaga with you. You know what I mean? That's got to be really, really motivational and inspiring. Somebody of his caliber, meeting, of course, somebody who's also at the top of her game. But I'm glad, again, kudos to DAZN for setting that up, all the teams that were involved, and I'm happy you got to experience that.
Yeah, it was definitely like the coolest birthday present that I got this year. So, yeah, thank you. Shout out to DAZN again for surprising me with that.
How much do you put into your walkout? Your walkouts are always epic. And is that all you, or is there a team that contributes to everything involved in it, whether it's the way the music comes out or what you're wearing or you're dancing, all that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it's definitely a collective effort. I always have a vision, but then it takes a lot of people to put it together. So, for example, like my Bellator Hawaii walkout, I had a vision of having, 4 Kahili Bears walk me out, but those guys were the ones that led everything. They were the ones that decided which chants that they were going to do. That they were going to bring out the flags and all of that good stuff. So, and then aside from them, Bellator, the production side, they were working hand in hand with us the entire time. And normally they don't really do that with a lot of fighters. A lot of fighters don't really have a lot of autonomy when it comes to their walkout. But the production staff was like, no, like, we know that this is really special to you, so we're going to work with you guys. And they were amazing. They weren't just treating it like another walkout. They actually were interested, like, okay, what is this right here? Oh, this is the exchange of breath. This is a cultural practice known as the ha. So they were in it 100%, and I think that's the reason why it was such a success, because everyone worked together. So it's definitely a collective effort. And a lot of times too, it like I said, I have the vision, but I need help from a lot of different people to make it work.
Ilima-Lei Macfarlane is our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. She is the Bellator Women's Flyweight World Champion, and she'll be defending her belt on April 27th against Vida Arteaga at Bellator 220. All right, goes. What do you have for Ilima-Lei?
Ilima-Lei, so you've had 8 Bellator fights, and I know in between each fight you're getting better at what you do. You're harnessing all your new skills and all that. But can you pick one little area between which 2 fights do you feel like you improved the most, and can you share what that improvement was?
Yes, I think between I would say either between like my first title defense. Actually, you know what? I totally lied. I'm gonna say the most improvement that I showed between fights was right before I won the belt. So I believe it was in between my Jessica Middleton fight, where I armbarred her in the first round at Mohegan Sun, to when I fought Emily Ducote for the belt at Penn State in November. I showed the most improvement because up until that point, everybody knew me as just a grappler. All I had was wrestling and jiu-jitsu. But in the title fight against Ducote, I outstruck her every single round. In fact, the majority of the fight was on our feet. And while I did get the finish on the ground in the 5th round, I think that fight just showed that how well-rounded I really was and how I was evolving as a mixed martial artist and a fighter. So yeah, just being able to show everybody that, like, yes, I can stand and bang, or I can strike technically, I thought showed the most improvement.
Now, at this point, it's 4 straight finishes. Not getting a finish here, would it feel strange? Because a win is a win, right? But at the end of the day, I mean, you've been so destructive in the way you've been doing this, and it's like a beautiful destruction. Would it feel weird if you didn't get the finish?
No, not. I mean, okay, so I didn't know this, but I guess I'm tied for the most submissions in Bellator history. So everyone's like, yeah, if you get a finish in this fight, then you're gonna be the record holder. And but I've never been one to chase records or anything. I don't fish for moves. I don't fish for certain submission finishes. I just take what's given to me. But I think that would be cool though. It's not super high on my priority list. The priority is getting my hand raised, at the end of the day. And an opponent like Vida, we actually do think that it's going to go all 5 rounds. Like me and my corners, we think that it's going to go to the judges because she's a really gritty opponent and very durable. So we are prepared for it to go to the judges.
Last question for me. When the fighter's undefeated, you get asked about that a lot, I imagine. But my question to you is, when you look into your, combat sports record, you were also undefeated as an amateur fighter, and you were also undefeated in your jiu-jitsu career, winning that EBI title as well. And so is your goal, like a lot of undefeated fighters, when we ask them about it, I'd say 9 out of 10 go, look, one day I know I'm going to lose, but then there's a few that say I'm never going to lose. But because you've been able to be undefeated in, like I say, as an amateur fighter, as a pro fighter, and then as in this jiu-jitsu, combat jiu-jitsu, is it now a goal to preserve that, or are you a fighter that just doesn't worry about it and will be fine accepting it if it ever happened?
Oh, I'm definitely the latter. Like, I actually think that I'm going to lose every fight. Every fight I go into, I'm like, okay, I'm going to lose. But, that's just like a mindset and a strategy that I have, because I think that, it keeps me grounded. It keeps me very realistic. We have seen those fighters who do truly believe that they're going to be undefeated, and they end up crashing the hardest, when it does happen. So I think that it's what sets me apart from a lot of people, is that, like, I'm not looking forward to the day that I lose, but I know that when that day does come, it's meant to happen, and it's how I respond to that loss that's truly going to define what type of fighter and what type of person I am. So, yeah, it's not something that I'm ever nervous about going into fights. I'm always like, yeah, okay, I'm going to lose this one, guys. Sorry.
Would you ever consider retiring early just to preserve that, I guess?
No, I mean, honestly, I thought I was going to stop fighting at age 30. Like, that was the timeline that I set for myself when I started fighting at 25.
Uh-huh.
So I just turned 29, and my contract is actually going to be up when I turn 30. So that's why I was like, okay, perfect. That's when I'm going to start having babies and starting a family. But that was also before I became champion and before I started, doing really well. So, yeah, I'm also single as fuck right now. Oh, sorry, I swore. I'm also very, very single, and in no means in any position right now to even think about having babies. So, yeah, I see myself fighting for at least a few more years. And again, like I said, I don't see myself retiring undefeated. I really do. I know that the day will come when I do lose, and I'm not gonna try to stop it or anything. If it's meant to happen, it's gonna happen.
There you go. All right, champ. We really appreciate the chat, as always. Congrats on all your success. We look forward to this fight, the walkout, the fight itself. It's really special when you fight. I'm glad you've gotten some great opportunities, including that last one in Hawaii. Very, very epic. So thanks again for the time here on the MMA Junkie Radio Show. And we will be tuning in on DAZN, 10 p.m. Eastern, on the 27th.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you.
See you guys there.
Okay. Bye-bye. Folks, you can follow her on Twitter at Ilima-Nator, and that's ILIMANATOR. Excuse me. And thanks to CJ from Bellator for setting that one up. We got to go to our last break. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation, channel 156. When we come back, I think I'm going to try a rap song or something like that. I don't know. The producer's telling me some weird stuff. We'll be right back.
Is on point. Here are George Goes and Dan.
Look, we all know that the UFC is the biggest name in mixed martial arts, but that Bellator card is really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Bellator 220.
Sneaking up on me.
Yeah, and they got a Grand Prix quarterfinal. They got a women's title defense with the champ that was just on, Ilima-Lei Macfarlane. 2 former champions battling for contention. That's Liam McGeary versus Phil Davis. Benson Henderson definitely is trying to make his mark and maybe capture a belt there at Bellator. Remember, he did it at WEC. He did it at the UFC. He's definitely one of the best to ever do it in the lightweight division against the up-and-comer Adam Piccolotti. And one of our favorites goes, Gaston Bolanos. He's also on the card as well.
It's exciting, man.
Yeah. Now, there's another UFC coming up this weekend. We'll talk a little bit more about it throughout the week. It's called UFC St. Petersburg or UFC on ESPN +7 with Alistair Overeem and Alexei Olenek at the top of the bill in the main event. Also, another fight I'm looking forward to is Antonina Shevchenko, who literally hasn't lost a fight since 2002 against Roxanne Modafferi. And we'll save a little bit of that chatter for later in the week. Oh, one more good fight, too. Marcin Tybura versus Shamil Abdurakhimov. There you go. They're fighting as well. Abdurakhimov is just outside the honorable mentions in the heavyweight rankings, and Tybura is a ranked fighter towards a little bit of the bottom. But those are 2 pretty stellar fighters there. However, let's not let Ryzen FF 15 slip by us. That's coming up as well on April 21st, Yokohama Arena in Yokohama, Japan. King Mo Lawal will be fighting on that one for the inaugural light heavyweight title. Also on the fight card is Ben Wynn versus Kyoji Horiguchi. That's a catchweight bout at 132 pounds. So at some point, we're going to run out of time today. We should definitely talk about that card. And, look, Ryzen is catching us at a time where in the past, waking up at 4 a.m., midnight, whatever, was not a big deal. Hell, we used to do UFCs and then just stay awake for Pride. But that was fucking 15 years.
And then do a post-fight show.
That was 15 years ago, for one. And 2, there's so much MMA. Back then, it was like you wait for UFC and then you had another 2-3 months. So you geared up. You caffeined up or liquored up or whatever. It was easy. But now Ryzen comes in an era where there's just so many shows, and I think a lot of people feel like, oh, man, you guys don't give any love or whatever. No, man, it's not that. It's just there's just a lot of MMA out there. The sport has completely blown up. It's just a little bit different. The eras are a little bit different. All right, thank you again to Ilima-Lei Macfarlane for her time. Tomorrow we'll be back, and we'll be talking to Liam McGeary and John Fitch, both fighting on that card we mentioned, Bellator 220. We'll talk to you then, all right? For Jumbo Josh and Goes, I'm George. Have a nice day. Go out there and be a champion.